I'm paying too much attention to it. I gotta move on. Because it's.
Hey, EJ, were you recording
Okay.
our conversation about submitting?
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order,
You can't.
and before we begin, I will ask the town manager to announce the protocols. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To begin, I ask everyone to ensure their phone is on silent. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town's YouTube. For those in the room, it is important that you remain quiet unless participating in the discussion. If you're participating in the discussion, speak audibly into your microphone. For those on Zoom, it is important that you keep your camera off and microphone muted unless participating in the discussion. If you're participating in the discussion, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you're off camera. If this meeting is interrupted for any reason, I will immediately end the Zoom and send the new link via email, and I'll put it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, and I will turn
Oh,
it over. Since this is a work session, I will turn it over to the council president.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the first item on the agenda is the building report by the town permit administrator. So Steve Zirko will give us that report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, sir. So there's been a lot going on in the town, as I'm sure you've noticed, building wise and more coming up. From last month, highlights 4905 Cumberland Avenue, the repairs or correction to the driveway that directed by the council complete. It's a nicely done job, and we'll be moving that from the report. I'm anticipating that homeowner will be submitting an application in the near future for a fence. So I just plan to remove the property report. That will be a separate event. 4712 Allstone. There were some issues that have been they've been largely corrected by the problem. Sorry. The town has a limit on the height of a fence, and the only way they could comply with that limit was to set the fence back from the new retaining wall. That's what was shown in their plans, but the fence would be 4 inches back from the retaining wall. That was a distance that the town council said was adequate to separate the vertical distances. But in eventuality, the contractor brought in to build the fence, just put the fence right on top of the retaining wall. So that made it too tall. I stopped them, worked with Mid-Atlantic. They quickly got it corrected, moved the fence back. So that's taken care of. Something else happened that was rather interesting. I just mention it for the council's awareness. A retaining wall needs to have weak holes or drainage holes, so that water that accumulates behind the retaining wall can escape and not cause damage to the foundation or structure of that retaining wall. So this is as described in the council guidance document for retaining walls. That's not actually in the regulations as to exactly what has to be there. It's certainly not in the county regulations, and the town regulations do not talk about that type of civil engineering detail. Mid-Atlantic put in drainage holes. The downhill neighbor at the corner on Trent objected to those drainage holes because they were just pour water onto the property. So the contractor very rapidly removed removed the drainage from the retaining wall. And now they have it snaking around a drainage pipe, 4-inch corrugated plastic drainage pipe, snaking around the edge of the retaining wall. That means that, but it's at a higher elevation. It's not really in conformance with the guidance document from the county. It specifies that if you're going to go around to the edge of the retaining wall, you need to go to both edges. They just go to one edge. I pointed this out to the county DPS, raised it as a alert in their system. The response from DPS, I quoted it in the report, is essentially if the contractor says it's okay, it's okay. So, that's as it's built. There's nothing in town code that it is against. I'm concerned just was that 15 or 20 years down the road, there could be damage to the retaining wall as a result. That's,
Is this their retaining walls or the neighbor's retaining walls?
it's their retaining wall. So if it's,
I guess,
if at some point in time, there's an issue. Yeah, yes,
Wasn't this the one though that was in question, like, because it was really benefiting the neighbors to have that up, and so they wanted to remove it, and like we made them re-put it back in, isn't that? This is the. Yeah, like there was like a concern about how much time it was given for the other neighbors to come to
oh, the notification.
the
Yes.
notification, and there was concern about this retaining wall.
Yes,
And they didn't want it necessarily to come down, because it was like a, I mean, it's been there for a while.
so this replaced and expanded an old sort of natural rock retaining wall.
Uh-huh,
With a cinder block retaining wall. It's an attractive cinder block, but it's a manufactured block retaining wall that's larger. So I think that there were some concerns or objections raised by neighbors at the appearance of it too.
okay, do we know if the neighbors will be bear the brunt of, this water?
The water will naturally, in the past, water naturally flowed off 4712 downhill.
Yep,
And that will continue to happen to some extent. I think it will be much less because there was no stormwater management in the past.
yeah,
And now all of the roof runoff is captured. So really the amount of water we're talking about is just the water that saturates that grassy area behind the retaining wall,
Mhm.
maybe 200 square feet. So I don't think there'll actually be that much water coming in.
okay, okay.
Should we
Sorry.
perhaps think about adding drainage holes and a retaining wall into our code, so as to avoid this kind of confusion that happened in this case?
Yes, I think as we, or as I start to find loopholes or shortcuts that contractors take, it might be worth looking at
Mhm.
whether or not, considering whether or not our code should address it directly.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I am no longer a licensed professional engineer. I cannot attest that that wall will fail because of this. I just have some concerns because it is not in full conformance with the county guidelines for the retaining wall.
But the county doesn't seem to
Our
care.
county doesn't seem to care.
Also with this house, so was the height check that was done and they built it taller, was that fixed?
They actually built it like, I don't know, a quarter of an inch shorter than they said they would, so they are within our height limit.
Okay,
But that's also within like the margin of error of these height checks.
mhm.
Thank you.
And
Any other questions on this one, or can we go on? Thanks. Go on.
so I'm
Okay.
getting talking like this. So let me just see what's the next house. 4003 Grantham, we're receiving, they have submitted their application for a new house. And even though it's just going to be a two-story, going from a single story to a two-story, because of the way the topography works in that property, that house will also be close to our height limit. Just for reference. And 5400 Trent has submitted an application. You may recall they came for the council last summer for variance requests, which were granted because they're essentially building up the second story on the current footprint, the current house. But the corners of that current house are non-conforming to code. Because of the established building. And lastly, not on this list, but just to mention 5528 Trent, the new house. The new owners just submitted a permit request to enclose the rear porch. And that will, so you'll probably have 3 building permit applications to consider at the election.
Right.
That's all I have. Any questions?
Any other questions? Nope, thank you very much. All right, the next items are 2 presentations, 8 from 2 different teams from Dewberry, who I believe are on Zoom.
Yeah.
The first one is the updated inspection report, restoration plan, load rating analysis for the bridge, the pool bridge.
So we have 2 engineers from Dewberry.
Hi, I'm Evan Ash. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
So I'm a structural engineer with Dewberry, and we've been out to the bridge twice now to do an inspection, and we're working on the bridge repair plans currently, and also the load rating analysis. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Evan. I've worked at Dewberry for about 17 years now, doing mainly things like this, bridge inspection and new bridge design. And we definitely appreciate the opportunity to work for the town. I grew up in a community where we had a centralized pool and I know what kind of an anchor that can be for a community. So I understand the significance of this for the whole town. Basically, just a little background. A colleague of mine who I think is working on some smaller projects for the town reached out, I think in October 2024, initially about doing a safety inspection for the bridge to just look at the safety of the structure the same way we would for a typical roadway bridge that's out on public streets. So we did the initial inspection in 2024. The results of that and the repair recommendations that we made, I think, were the cause of us moving forward into generating repair plans for the town. So we also went back out in November of 2025 to re-inspect it and check the defects again and see if anything got worse prior to making the repairs. I'll share my screen real quick and I can just flip through kind of the major findings of the inspection report. And we can just talk about the repair recommendations that were made, and then Keisha, my colleague who's working on the bridge repair plans, can jump in and discuss some of those. Can you guys see a PDF here, the inspection report?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So the main findings when we do these bridge inspections. I'm sorry, what? Oh.
Could
So-
you zoom in actually?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. That's a tough read. For these bridge inspections, we try to get up close to all the major elements of the bridge, and with a bridge this small, we kind of get up close to everything. The major findings, we don't see any signs that the bridge is, say, overstressed based on the loads that are going over it currently. However, the one major finding that we had was with the deterioration of the steel beams at the ends of the bridge. There's one beam specifically that I was able to take my hammer and kind of just go right through the web of the beam. Let's just bring up a picture of that. I believe it's on this one here, and this was kind of similar. And this is typical of what you would find at a bridge of this age. And the reason it happens at the ends of the beams a lot is a lot of the runoff from just prior to the bridge tends to collect at certain ends of the bridge, and this gets a lot of moisture. So this is the main, this type of defects is the main kind of concern that we had structurally. And I believe it was the major recommendation that we made in the report was to conduct some steel repairs at the beam ends. So I think we identified 4 beam ends that should get a repair. And that's what we're working on in the bridge plans. In addition to that, there was some deterioration on the top of the bridge deck, so on the timber boards on the top of the bridge deck, and that's typical as well, just being an older bridge. So the recommendation was to replace essentially all the bridge decking on top of the bridge. In addition to these, we did note some items under the bridge where this stone facade, some stones had fallen out. Just since we're out there doing work, we recommended that those stones get replaced from the facade of the bridge. And lastly, the other thing that we recommended was to address, might not have, we had a lot of leaves last time we were out here. Let me just bring this up. Was to address a drainage issue that we think contributes to the beam end deterioration. If you look at the approach to the bridge here, on the other side of the speed bump here, water tends to flow down this little slope and it'll collect at this corner of the bridge over here, it appears. And this is where the major beam deterioration was taking place. So as another part of the bridge repair plans, we're developing details to put a drain here and collect this runoff and hopefully protect these beams and extend the life of the repairs that are being put in place. So those are the major elements. And I think the repair recommendations that were in the report are what generated us to start working the repair plans. Do you guys have any questions about the inspection before we dive into some of the repair plans?
Yes. I'll go first then. Just on a point of information, the wood beams on the bridge were installed recently. In fact, they were installed only in 2018. I learned that from Marnie Shaw, the former president of the council, who was president then. So the deterioration that you see in those wood beams is over 8 years. That's what's happened to them. So to say that something's wrong there is an understatement. Clearly, that should not have happened in that short period of time.
We're sure it was 2018 for that? Only 8 years?
We have dug up the record of when the money was allocated for it, and it was 2018. I have checked the tenure of the prior town manager, and that is during his tenure, so it is indeed doubly verified that it is 2018. Yeah. Okay,
that is a little surprising. We did not think, I guess, being out there that was the case, that they were that new. I'll say, yeah, based on what we saw, I guess I think we initially noted it as an intermediate recommendation, not necessarily a high priority to get done. The second time out, we took a moisture meter and we kind of took some additional readings, and we figured if we were replacing some of the boards, we might as well replace all of them. I don't know if it was a material issue then. These things are obviously just outside under a vehicle load. You don't have any kind of coating protecting them or anything like that. So that is a little surprising that.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that is noticeable about that bridge is it's completely flat, and most bridges have a slight grade on them from the center downwards, both directions. And I was wondering whether that was contributing to the deterioration, because water sits on it that way when it's completely flat.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there is, I think, a little bit of a gap maybe, so water could get in between the boards. But yeah, it is fairly flat, and you have two approaches that slope down like you see on the picture here that could lead to extra water ponding on it. So I guess that is something that the trench drain, if we put on, especially on this side, could help preserve that.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is a way to make it last longer.
Right. And it's tough with with your, say, deck in your backyard, you would stain it or something like that. That's not going to hold up under a wheel of a vehicle driving over it, right? So I don't think there's much point in that. The drain that we're going to put in on this side could help. I don't believe we thought it was necessary to put a drain over at the other side, but if we do think there's a ponding issue, maybe that's something we consider, because it would be the same detail in the plans, right? It would just be kind of just doing the extra work at the other side.
There is a ponding issue, as I'm sure others on the council have noticed too. It's not.
There is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's great information. Do you by chance have any contract documents of the work in 2018, like the materials that were used or anything?
I wish we had. Unfortunately, we have not been able to locate those records. We just checked today.
Gotcha.
I mean, are you sure that they even did it?
Wait, Linda,
They did.
I think Linda has something.
I don't recall that work being done, but maybe it was, because I started in 2018. That seems like that was the big talk of repairing because Rich was here then.
We have notes that the work was starting in April 2018.
I mean, I moved in 2019.
I'm not sure that any work was
I don't
done.
think any work was done.
No, I
either.
don't think so.
I think it was just looked at.
Yeah, I don't think work
it
was
any work
done.
every time.
Because if they have found that, it seems like they discovered that no work was done.
Maybe we replaced a board or two.
75,000 was allocated at that time.
But was it
What was
spent, Linda? It wasn't spent.
Was it spent?
So that work probably wasn't
That
done.
may have been what was approved if we ever figured out, because the whole thing with the flatness and the water pooling and all, that was something that was always under discussion when I first started. But I don't recall work being done.
Well, all right, I will not, I cannot find proof that it was done, but what we can say without doubt is that water is pooling on the bridge.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it wasn't done.
I'll just say one more time. If work was done and anybody has photos of the beams with those boards off, it could be that would be very helpful to know as we're putting together these plans. Because I think as you guys probably know, we are kind of at a lack of details for this whole thing. So we're relying on field measurements, our observations, but there's some things that are just covered up and we can't know. So I think just speaking for Keisha, I'm sure she would be chomping at the bit if there were any pictures of the boards off the beam and we could see some of those connections. That'd be great. But yeah, maybe it was the case where the work wasn't actually done.
All right.
But yeah, that's great information to know that there is a ponding issue and we can definitely take that into account.
All right. Other questions from other council members here?
I had the same about the sort of typically see a grade in bridges. And the only other thought I have, Evan, thank you so much, by the way, for walking us through this and for your work with Tom. The only other question I have is, we are talking about repairs. Did you see any opportunities for upgrades, so to speak? Are there things that we should consider, given that you're inspecting and looking at this very closely?
Yeah, it's tough. The first thing I'll just say one more time too, if there are any people in the town who were around in, I think, late 60s, early 70s when this was built and can think of a company name or anything like that that could help us get a hold of bridge plans for this, that would be a great help, not just for this project, but definitely for future upgrades.
Yeah, I think we can get that for you.
That would be a huge deal, because I'll say the biggest opportunity for an upgrade would be a superstructure replacement of the bridge. If you could just kind of pick those beams off, you could temporarily support the utilities, and you could even drop in like a prefabricated truss or something like that could be dropped in fairly quick. And with that opportunity, you could, you see this sign up here where the restricted load is on it. You could drop in a new superstructure that could upgrade that load capacity of the bridge and take away some of these restrictions. With the bridge as it's set up now, there really isn't a great opportunity to, say, reinforce the bridge and strengthen it to the point where it would make a noticeable difference. But the other major component of it is, without details of the foundation, you're going to have a hard time. I know my company wasn't comfortable with it. You're going to have a hard time getting an engineer to sign off on upgrading the capacity of the superstructure without knowing how much load the foundations can take. So details of the bridge would be great if we could find some kind of as-built plans or some kind of company that had some old details. I know EJ did a lot of digging for us, and I've bugged him probably way too much about it. But EJ did come up with some details for us, and it appeared the bridge was built at the same time as the pool, and any drawings for the bridge were kind of lumped in with the pool at that time. So if anybody kind of has any information on the pool contractor or something like that, that could be helpful as well. So I'll just say, yeah, those are my main notes about that for strengthening improvements. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Adam on the bridge? Debbie or Shannon?
No.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go on to the.
I did have a question on this topic for the chair. Just wondering, catch up on the timing of these interventions on the bridge.
Like,
It just catches up. I'm blanking on where the schedule stands overall.
for this
With-
project?
Yeah, for this project, yeah.
Yes.
And not for, I'm just totally blanking on where we are on everything, yeah.
Yeah, so with the Dewberry has submitted the preliminary plans and is getting feedback from council. Once that feedback is provided, they can finalize the plans. And then that way, and then once those are finalized, we can select the contractor. Once they're finalized, same like kind of two prongs, we'll start the permitting process while also selecting a contractor. And then once both are, then we start the work.
And to remind us, you said we can, if I can ask one more follow-up, to remind us, we can do the kind of the surface fix and have the pool, the bridge operational, and then we can do the structural fix.
Yes.
Is that the collective understanding, Evan?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
That we can fix what are those slabs called?
The decking.
The decking, we can fix the decking first, and then we can have the pool, the bridge functional. And while it's functional, we can make these other repairs that you identified.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I think the bridge is functional as is, and you could do probably any order of operations that we put in the plans to get things going. So yeah.
Understood, perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you. And we will move on to the next presentation, which is by the sidewalk team. Go ahead.
Kevin?
Please start.
Oh, good evening. I'm Kevin Mack with Dewberry, Senior Landscape Architect in our Maryland operations. So we've moved forward with the design plans for the sidewalk on Essex Avenue, as well as the connection for the sidewalk at the intersection of Deal and Cumberland. We've got those pretty well developed now, and I'm not sure, how do you want to address this tonight? Do you want to go through everything in detail, or?
I think
the technical drawing, so it's.
Yeah, I think what would be best, and then the council can ask questions and ask for more detail, is just to sort of go through the kind of big picture of what the plans kind of mean for those spots and kind of work that is going to be done to make these repairs in town.
Okay, sure. So I believe you can see my screen now.
Yes.
So
Feel free to zoom in as you.
Yeah, could you make it bigger?
Okay. So starting with the sidewalk on Essex, we've gone in and regraded the steeper section here to basically average out the grade across the entire length here. We were trying to have as little disruption to the existing trees as possible. So we opted to actually start the work at this point rather than all the way up at the sidewalk connection or the lead walk, because it doesn't make any difference to the grade of the road, of the sidewalk in here. It's basically the same grade. And so we wanted to have as little effect to this existing oak tree as possible. Unfortunately, there is one tree in the middle here that will have to come out. This 18-inch oak tree here, the amount of grading around it is too much to be able to keep that tree. And we kept as far away from the existing walnut tree, which was previously disturbed by the when the sidewalk was put in and the house was built. So we're fairly confident that this tree will be survivable. As you can see, the hatched area is the extent of what's being removed and replaced, and then we're going to reinstall a couple, 3 trees in here to replace the ones that are being taken out. You end up with it's still pretty steep, but it's comparable now to the base grade of the street in front of it now. So we've eliminated a lot of this grade in here. One thing I will point out, in order to accomplish this, we will need to acquire a temporary grading easement or rights from the property owners, because this is the right-of-way line. In order to do all this, we're going to have to go onto their property a little bit.
Kevin, not to interrupt you, but just so everybody in the room is aware, this project specifically that we're talking about now is at the current terminus of the Essex sidewalk, which was the current one has a almost to a point of being dangerous slope because it was constructed privately. And so now the town needs to fix it to bring it into ADA and PROAC compliance, which requires re-leveling it, just so we're aware of what the project is.
And it's one of 4 or 5 interventions we are doing
Yes.
around sidewalks and roads and intersections. Yes.
This is not a discussion of that proposed sidewalk. This is about sidewalk repairs that are needed, not.
Correct.
Not the address, not next.
But this is a work session,
4825.
and this is just a report that we're getting on the charrette. It's not making any decisions, and it's mainly about the repairs that need to be done, not about the proposed sidewalk.
This one isn't about.
Just so it's clear.
Can I just ask?
No, it's not. It's not what a work session. No, this is just a report.
And the context is that this is one of 5, 6 interventions around sidewalks and roads.
Yes.
This one is, we commissioned Blueberry to help us plan this. It started many moons ago. And in this particular instance, there is a problem with the sidewalk that we have to fix. And so that's what, but we unfortunately, I think work sessions, we can't entertain questions, but just to give you.
Yeah, this is just, they're giving their report. We're not making decisions, and so don't jump to any conclusions.
I'm not jumping.
Okay, but in work sessions, we don't have public input because we try to get the work done.
Incentive for you to stay on so we can talk later.
Right.
Yeah, you Kevin, I think.
Keep going, Kevin.
Okay, all right. So the total disturbance area for this work here is approximately 2,200 square feet, which is well below the 5,000 square foot that would trigger any kind of stormwater management and sediment control and permitting. So that was one of the main goals for all these repair projects, was to keep them under that 5,000 limit. This one's got plenty of space left to do. I also want to mention that we're replacing the 4-foot sidewalk with a 5-foot sidewalk to make it compliant with the new public right-of-way requirements, as well as replacing the driveway here to fit all of those requirements and to use a more standardized driveway apron that matches the county standard. So moving to the Cumberland side, we're going to be demolishing this amount of area here at the intersection. This one is also down only about 22,000 square feet. And this one, we're going to be replacing the existing curb as well as the sidewalk. And in order to get around all the obstructions with minimal disturbance to everything as much as we could, there's a power pole right here, which is unfortunately located right where the sidewalk normally would want to go, but we're within the right of way, so it still is not a problem. We're going to bring the sidewalk around the backside, which then lines up to the new apron of this driveway, and then one of the elements that we're trying to do is to weave the new 5-foot sidewalks between the aprons of driveways and the existing trees. One problem we run into throughout the town is that there's the street trees are variable in their setback from the curb, and so it's kind of forcing us to do a design that's unique for every lot frontage, in order to make that weave through there to not have to take the trees out everywhere and then replace everything. So we want to keep as many of the trees as possible. So what we've done then is, rather than holding a 5-foot setback, we've actually bent the sidewalk forward so it's 1.5 feet off the curb to get around the tree, and then we come back to the back of the right of way. This being the right of way line. So on this one, there's 2 ways we can approach this, and we were looking for any kind of preferences that the town, the council might have. One, we can bring the sidewalk all the way where we're not obstructed by a tree. We can bring the sidewalk all the way back to the standard 1 foot off of the right of way. Or we can do what we did on this one, where we hold it at the minimum setback at the driveway, which is where the apron is. And just to confirm everyone understands, the sidewalk is considered to continue across the driveway, so that 2% maximum cross slope still would have to abide through the driveway. So to get from the sidewalk elevation to the curb elevation, the apron in the front has a slope to it. So you're ramping up, and then you're flat, and then from the sidewalk you tie back into the existing driveway as quickly as grades will allow. Again, one issue that's going to be happening in other areas that aren't as flat as this section of town is the further back you go from the curb, the more variable the elevation of the driveway is. Some places it's significantly higher than the curb, other places significantly lower. Each one of them has an issue with managing to tie back in once you put a sidewalk through that is designed to the standards. So something for you to consider is would you prefer this to be the standard, or having the sidewalk just back from the apron as the standard and leave as much as possible within the right of way behind the curb with the sidewalk? We can do it either way. It works equally well in this case. Either way, once we get over to the other side of Cumberland where it's steeper, We probably won't have the option to go this far back. We're going to have to keep it as close to the curb as possible, due to the retaining walls and just where the trees and stuff are on that. So that's basically it as far as the general concept for it. If I can answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll start with one suggestion,
Mhm.
which is my preference would be on that design to keep the sidewalk close to the curb side.
Mhm.
And give the owner as much freedom with the area of the right of way as we can do. Any others got concerns about that?
Yeah, since you on that line, if I can go just to build on that, what wasn't clear to me, Kevin, is in the second option further down.
Uh-huh.
What is the kind of sort of outcome for the homeowner there with their front yard and right away? It's not completely apparent to me from the drawings. It sounded like there is a minimal impact on that, but I'm not 100% clear. So if you can just draw that out for us.
Yeah, in this particular part of
Yes.
so this whole section of
Yes.
of Cumberland, I think it's basically going to be the same. Everything's very flat. So grading is not really an issue in there. We just need to have enough room to work around. And one of the things that we're suggesting, because the existing curb out there is very short and the yards are relatively low compared to the road, we don't want to have to raise the sidewalks because that would create a potential ponding issue in the driveway in the front yards.
Yes.
So what we've done is rather than using a 6-inch standing curb and gutter, we're proposing that in this particular length of Cumberland, that we use the county standard mountable curb, which is only 3 inches tall.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it lower.
It saves 3 inches vertical, which should ameliorate any issues with the grading on there in this case. And so, just as a reference, also the standard for a driveway of this type is to have the mountable curb, 3-inch curb for the front of the driveway, and normally that would flare back up to a 6-inch curb on either side. In this case, we're going to continue the 3-inch curb all the way along.
Okay, and then just to close the loop, Kevin, on the earlier point to what Robin was responding to, what did you mean exactly closer to the curb for that section then, given what you just said?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
When you go, can you go back to that section of Cumberland that you were showing?
Mm-hmm.
You said we have 2 options for that section, and the other option is closer to the curb.
Yeah. So
why does that matter for the section you were just showing us?
Thinking forward to the future continuation of rebuilding the sidewalks.
Say that again. Couldn't hear you.
I'm trying to thinking ahead towards the future replacement of the sidewalks to the 5-foot sidewalk throughout the town as you get to it. So I think it's a lot easier if we try to have kind of set a standard pattern for it.
I see. So you're saying for that consideration, closer to the curb is your recommendation. And then what does that mean for the right of way and the front yard of those properties right there? Can you draw out that implication if we decided to do closer to the curb there? I understand on the corner, that's clear, but just on the section you were at.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is, it's a matter of, I think 2 feet.
Moving towards the curb.
Yeah, this one, the sidewalk is 1 foot off the right of way. And in this one, it's 3 feet off the curb. In the other one, so it's 5 feet off the curb versus 3 feet off the curb.
So where it's curving now, you would bring it closer to the curb.
Yeah, it would basically, bear with me, I really suck at drawing in blue bean, but it would be more, whoops. Try that again. It would look more like
That's right. The
More
same
like
width, but closer to the curb.
yeah.
Yes, okay.
So there's other obstructions that we have to work around with the on this side. We have to work around the power poles as well.
Understood. And then to clarify, no trees in this particular section in terms of the work that we're doing are going to need to be removed or damaged. I didn't hear that clearly from you, but just wanted to.
In this particular portion right in here, we're going to actually, I think in consideration, I think this tree is going to end up having to come out because there's too much happening on both sides of it.
Okay.
Those trees are new, I think. They're like little.
Well, this one's only 12 inches, so it's not new, but it's not
It's not
one
big.
of the big trees.
Okay.
You know,
Thank
there's
you.
other trees on that street that Tollefson, Dr. Feather, whatever, has recommended that they thank you, come down.
Okay.
So it would be interesting, you know, to see as part of the plan in conjunction with him, if some of the trees that you're working around might be almost already in danger of being needing to come down anyway.
Yes, I mean, if you have a list of trees that are for consideration of removal in the next 5 years, we probably that would help us, and we can say, well, it's probably going to come down anyway, so let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
EJ, can you ask Tolbert for a list of such trees? So
You know, that
Yeah.
turn right there is like a very tight kind of, it's the street. There's a lot of traffic that goes back and forth because that's the back entrance to the school.
Mhm.
And so, there's, you know, that blind spot, like, are we worried that the sidewalk is gonna encroach too much on the street and then, you know, cars might zoom too close to the sidewalk and be dangerous?
Yeah, so this is the existing curve that's out there today, and it just kind of ends there, and then it picks up again along here somewhere in front of the driveway.
Yeah,
What we're proposing is to actually take out this little triangle of asphalt and put in another, I think, 15-foot radius here, which will help with drainage and with snow removal, and also it'll make more of a visual cue to drivers that there's a curve here.
yeah,
So we still have the stop bar here and the stop sign, but we took out this corner here because it doesn't serve the traffic purpose any to have that corner. No one's ever going to go there.
yeah,
And it allowed us to pull the pavement further away from where the sidewalk would go.
yeah, because like almost right now, you can't really have like, if you're at both of those stop signs, like two cars can't go at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
They have to take turns.
too.
Yeah,
There's a blind spot on that.
yeah, because that tree has that blind spot there too.
Yes. We did not consider that originally, but we might, if you want to fix that problem a little better, we can increase the radius of this curve as well. The right of way is back in here, so we've got room to do it. And that might help the maneuverability around. It's right now, I believe that this is actually like a 25-foot radius. We can make it a 30-foot. which will pull the midpoint back about 2.5, 3 feet. That-
Yeah.
That's something we can look into, yes.
Yeah, but I think you're missing that big tree that's right there.
Well, that's the thing, is we didn't survey the other side of the street.
Yeah, there's a humongous tree like right in that.
Right. So yeah, so I would need to go out there and find that tree
Yeah.
to get it on the plan, because yeah, our survey only went up to the curb.
Might be good to get updated drawings that show all of this before we do anything.
Aren't these the updated drawings?
No, like what we just discussed
Oh.
on that corner, or if you're gonna move closer to the curb, I prefer it not drawn blue. And
Oh,
shown properly,
but-
that would be good.
Let's make sure that the whole council is agreeing that we want to investigate that option, which is basically to extend the other corner to a 30-foot length instead of 25 feet to reduce the blind spot, give more maneuverability.
Was there a reason not to do it?
I appreciate Shannon bringing that up because it is a hard turn in the new way. So, you know, it doesn't hurt us to at least understand the option
Yeah.
before we.
So, all right, if you could draw up that option and check to see what trees must go, that we'd appreciate it.
Or may not need to go.
Right.
Just, I mean, like
Yeah,
take account of the
hopefully.
tree before we.
No tree need to go, all right. Any more questions for Kevin?
Oh, one other thing I would ask the council, just thinking forward, that the ultimate goal is to replace all the sidewalks. Since we're only at half of the capacity, the maximum disturbance along in here, what does the council feel about maybe extending the replacement further down? Yeah, that's a small oak tree there, so we could keep coming down further, and even go further down this side if that would be something that the council would like to look at.
Anybody got comments on that?
I mean, I'm reacting allergically to it because I want to think about it because I don't want to be more disruptive to the town beyond what is necessary.
Mhm.
So that's,
Don't we also?
but
have a
that may
budget?
not be the most thoughtful response. I just need
Don't
to
we
think
also
about
have
it.
just a budget for this as well?
We have about financial constraints and so.
Well, we're not.
Well, you know, a lot of kids and their parents, you know, walk along the street
I
to
appreciate that too, yeah.
the backside of Somerset. And so, you know, it's not a horrible, you know, to make it nice and prettier, you know, a little prettier, wider would be good. I mean, it would be nice to have a wide, you know, throughway from Wisconsin all the way to the school that is handicap accessible, you know.
Yeah, there are clear benefits. I mean, this section seems more straightforward. But the Essex one, I'm a little anxious about given the tree removals. So I'm wondering if there are alternatives that, because we looked at two drawings, we are talking about the second one. But the Essex one, right, there were a fair number of tree removals there.
I think we should talk to Dr. Feather. Right. And because like, I mean, these trees, a lot of these trees are old and they're in a very, you know, they're already have roots growing into the sidewalks and the roots are popping up and, you know, they might need to come down.
No, if they need to come down.
Yeah,
100%,
and so I think we
please
should
bring them down. but if they
find
don't need
out,
to come
yeah.
down,
Yeah,
We
there's
should really think
I
about
think
it.
one tree on the Essex one that has to come down is what I heard. So it was an oak on the side of the street. The walnut, I think they can save. One question for you, Kevin. I had heard from somebody else in Dewberry, maybe it was you, saying that there is an option on the new standards to continue 4-foot sidewalks, but to have passing places at certain distances along the sidewalk. Is that an option too?
Yes, you're limited in the amount of 4-foot length. before you create the passing spaces. I believe it's 150 feet that you have to have a passing space in. It can be done. We can reduce the sidewalk width in places where it's particularly pinched in.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to say next is that around the school, I definitely would want 5-foot sidewalks both at the back and at the front of the school. But in other places in town, 4-foot sidewalks with passing places might make more sense.
Yes, actually on that point, the concept of the complete streets that Montgomery County has developed and adopted, they actually, in high traffic areas, they have a recommendation for a 6-foot sidewalk, and 5 feet as the minimum side. That's what the county standard is going to, and that's sort of what the pedestrian safety ideas nationally are tending towards that, the wider sidewalk, because even a 5-foot sidewalk, 2 adults can't walk side by side comfortably.
All right.
Unless they're really like each other, because they're going to be banging shoulders. And so that's why in the higher traffic areas, they do recommend a 6-foot sidewalk. I don't think that in the area around the school that it actually will work. I think that extra foot is going to be too much to be able to get in without starting to take down a lot more trees. On Cumberland, I think on some of the Surrey, where the area within the right of way is a lot flatter, we can get more opportunity there. What's the other one? West, the one on the other side of the school, at the front of the school. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the street. That one, I think it is probably, we could widen those out to 6 if needed. All right. I've not really looked at those in depth yet.
Okay, well, what I'm hearing from the council is, first of all, the recommendations go with the linear curb sidewalk design on this one.
Mhm.
And
Well, an updated drawing showing that as a start would be,
by all means,
would be ideal.
it'd be good having an updated drawing, but while doing that, also to investigate the possibility of making the other side of the intersection more gentle with the 30-degree line, and therefore more maneuverable, again with an updated drawing, and inspect it to see if there's anything that makes that more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is there. We're holding off on extending the 5-foot sidewalk further down on the school just now.
Okay.
Because the issue is going to be, I think, what do we want around the school? And we haven't really faced that yet.
And on the Essex one, just to clarify exactly which trees.
I think, well, if you go back to the Essex one, I think you pointed out there was one tree that has to come
It's
down.
actually 2. I misspoke. It's actually 2 trees.
It's 2 trees, okay.
These two trees would both, which is a 17-inch maple and a 18-inch oak tree.
Might be good to get to Sam's recommendation, the perspective of not colors and Tolbert.
Yeah.
We had Swim World.
Swim World, like feather.
Coming up to Swim World.
I mean, only to be absolutely comfortable and clear-eyed about this. That'd be good.
They are 2 town trees, right?
Yes.
Yeah. On Essex, I would point out that the power line goes right through these 2 trees.
Yeah.
So we were actually proposing that the replacement trees will be smaller trees that can fit better under the power lines.
Yes, Dr. Feather is aware of that, and he'll probably agree with you there. Yeah. He's our arborist. By the way, what is the slope that you're proposing, and how close is it to the required slope?
The The existing grade on the street is about 11.5% and almost getting up towards 12%. The proposed grade is at 11.7% along the whole length of the reconstruction.
All right.
So it's still steep, but not as steep as the portion this portion right in here, which is what caught everybody's eyes.
That's a cliff there. I agree.
Yeah. So we've pulled these, as you can see, we've pulled the grade back here almost. We're lowering the grade about 3 feet at this point here.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Kevin on this one? Do we have any questions on the charrette report that they submitted?
Is that what we're moving on to next?
Well, it is part of this.
This isn't like a discussion on next steps at this time. If Kevin wants to briefly touch.
Well, we should say that remember, we told the council that we met with Dewberry about the charrette results, and basically it's going back to the committee. It's going back to the Public Safety Committee to start all over again, which I've been saying several other public meetings.
Just to be clear, what we have in our packet is the presentation they made. With minor, right, there isn't right, it effectively is.
The charrette report has the presentation. It also has a summary of comments that were received.
Yes, and so you're looking for our reaction to those comments?
Just any questions
Just
on
to
the
make,
report?
just if the report can be finalized, like.
As a product.
Yeah.
Do we accept the report is really what I'm trying to get at, as a report of the meeting without?
So that way the committee can kind of use it, the councils look at it.
Okay, so do we all agree with the summation in the report so that it can go back to the sidewalk, the pedestrian safety committee to start this process again?
Yes.
Okay, well, yes.
Okay.
For that purpose,
Send it back.
I'd like to.
Okay. Good.
Good.
All right. Thank you very much. Kevin, I think that's all we have for you.
Okay, great. One thing and one last idea that we were kicking around on the charrette report. if the members of the council want to actually meet on site and we can pick one of the
I think Kevin, that what we wanted in that meeting was that you would attend the Public Safety Committee meeting.
Okay, yeah.
So that the committee members and the citizens that attend can ask you questions about all the different, remember we talked about all the different options to achieve the goal. So we're waiting for the chair to schedule the meeting.
Okay.
Remember you agreed that you all would attend the meeting, so
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you could provide expertise for the committee to make some new recommendations. There's a lot of innovative ideas.
Yeah.
They came up with a lot of innovative ideas to achieve the goal of safety for pedestrians.
Okay.
Which wouldn't involve taking down trees or extending the sidewalk as was discussed. Yeah. So
Sure.
thank you so much.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for all your input.
All right, thanks. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion on a potential code amendment to introduce a maximum non-vegetative surface area.
It's date.
We're
not letting us talk.
Late night Thursday night, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt.
So, Ron, do you want to walk us through what you've put out for us?
Yeah, sure. So in the packet, there is a proposed ordinance, and the ordinance has just been drafted, not as a recommendation per se, but just so the council could see what some possible options for regulating coverage could be. And this is based on very helpful research and analysis that Steve has done. So I'm glad he's here tonight to help us talk through these. So basically, there are three general ways to accomplish a lot coverage regulation. First is to regulate. I'm getting a feedback. Is everyone else getting feedback too?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right, let me just adjust.
Maybe Justin can do anything, Justin.
The acoustics are okay, but.
Are you still getting it, Mr. Town Attorney?
It's like.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
It's on his end.
No, it's better. It's better
Okay,
now.
he fixed it. Justin fixed it.
Awesome.
We give Justin credit.
Totally.
Okay, so I'm not sure what page it is in the 189 page packet. I'm trying to find it for you. Do a search. Okay, it starts on page 175 of your meeting packet. It starts on page 175.
But if you're using the Google Drive, it's item 5.1.
Got you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, EJ. Yeah, that's a lot more helpful. I've opened up the web version.
One, so that one.
Okay, so on page 3 of the draft ordinance, you'll see there are some options laid out. I highlighted in yellow that these are options to consider. Looking at item C first, building coverage. That's what the county does. The county imposes a limit on the amount of floor area that buildings can comprise for a lot. And so you see here that that's put in as an option with 30%. And the building coverage itself is an option, and also whatever percentage that you would arrive at would be an option. Another way to do it is for regulation of maximum non-vegetative surface coverage in a front yard. Martin's Additions, Town of Chevy Chase, and Section 5 of the Village of Chevy Chase do that, where they try and preserve some green space in the front yard by limiting the amount of non-vegetative surface that can be in the front yard. And so that includes driveways, sidewalks, parking pads, and the like. And 35% is a standard approach there. That could be tweaked a little bit. It could extend to the entire lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but I think you calculated that if it was extended to the whole lot, then 60% would make sense if you're using 35% for the front yard. Am I remembering that correctly, Steve?
Yes, based on a rough survey of houses in Section 5, yes.
Thank you, sir. That's something that's new. I don't know of any jurisdictions in the area that are currently doing that, applying a maximum non-vegetative surface area to an entire lot. But I put it in there as an option because of the stormwater drainage issues that are a real problem for the area. And given that in connection with denser development that may be on the horizon, you could see more and more of lots that are covered with parking pads, and that could really exacerbate our existing stormwater drainage issues. So that's why I put in that option. And then the final option is an impervious surface area coverage. So it would be similar to the maximum non-vegetative surface, but you would just say any impervious surface, which could allow pervial parking pavers, as an exemption to that coverage requirement. And then you'll see next where I've highlighted, you can also include, if you wish, optional scaling language. So you wouldn't necessarily have to pick one percentage for all lots. You could have a variable scale that could be adjusted based on lot size. And I included some language there that I believe comes from the town of Chevy Chase. So for a lot coverage or building coverage requirement, for example, they may say, if your lot area is less than 6,000 feet, it's 30%, and then the allowable percentage increases as the lot size increases. So those are the general options that I came up with, and I'm happy to turn it over to Steve if Steve would like to share any further information on the data he collected for Section 5, who's also looking at this issue now, or we can go right to council questions.
Steve, why don't you go?
Just to emphasize what Ron is saying, there's a wide range of options for consideration by the council. And even within the options that one has listed, there are variations. So for example, Section 5, which has a limit of 35% non-vegetative surface area coverage in the front yard, they exempt front porches. So you can have a front porch, and even though that might eat up quite a bit of square footage, that doesn't count against the limit. Because they like that look in Section 5, so they don't want to inadvertently make that harder. That's just
all right.
So is it time for me to ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask a question here.
Does no town then do a total lot coverage percentage of non-vegetative, like including front yard and backyard?
That's correct. Yes, I'm not aware of any that do that. None of my clients do that.
And like, I think that, for when we were like first talking about this and thinking about it and stuff, I mean, it was before all of, the housing bills and stuff were started. And parking pads became like more of a real life, like, oh, wow, but I think that where it originated was, in just thinking about the houses that we've all sat through and have approved that fall under our code and have been built that fall under our code. From my standpoint, it was like, these houses really have it all, right? They're able to extend to all sides, but then yet the driveways weren't counted. The back garage wasn't counted. The porches or patios aren't counted. And, a bay window's not counted. And so it's like, we didn't really have that many, things that, didn't fall for it. And we all sat here like, oh, wow, this house follows everything, but yet it's gigantic. And there's a very few little green space that's left. And yeah, they're taking care of their stormwater management, but, in a very small areas. And so, I for me, I think it would be more interesting to see how we can incorporate all the extras into our overall thinking and overall plan of how we design a lot in Somerset, and determine what we as a council think is the appropriate space that is needed for that, and then just write it into the code and make the people decide. If they really want a driveway, then maybe they don't have a patio, or maybe they cut their house a little, and they don't have the yoga studio. or, you know, whatever it might be, but like, it's a choice, you know, like that you can make. Well, no, and you can have.
I can
it.
have it.
Yeah, you just then can't have a second.
I'll
You
drive
can't-
to it.
You can't have a second driveway, you
Well,
know?
and Councilmember Rovak makes a very good point. That reminds me, and the council may remember, some years ago, maybe many years ago, I know Steve was on the council then. We had a development project where the applicant had a rear screened porch, but it didn't have the screens in yet. And the county determined that porches are excluded for lot coverage for new construction. Ultimately, I think that was deemed a porch because it was pretty apparent that screens were going into it one day. But without the screens, it was deemed an open porch and not subject to lot coverage. And as I recall, that sort of began the discussion for this council as to whether we need our own lot coverage requirement because the county has a complicated version that doesn't include some things that the reasonable eye would suggest should be included. So yeah, thank you for reminding me that. So the county has a building coverage requirement of 35% for additions, 30% for infill development, but then different rules for what's included based on whether it's an addition or infill. For example, roofed porches are included in the 35% for additions, but all porches are excluded from lot coverage for new construction, as I recall, which it's complicated. It would be better just to have one standard that includes everything that presents visible mass, I would think.
Ron,
Yes.
in thinking about the governor's housing bill, I just wonder, are we putting the cart before the horse? Should we wait for that? If we get there first, maybe we'll be grandfathered here if we do this. Because I think they're talking about if it passes, getting much more density on a property, so there's less, permeable space,
Yeah, that's also a good point. I mean, you could wait and see what happens with the state legislation this year so that it informs your decision making a little more.
Or do we get there first? Maybe we'll
Yeah,
get bothered in.
I was going to say,
Why?
regardless of what happens at the state level, you'd be applying one lot coverage percentage for a lot, regardless of what use is on that lot.
I mean, why would you want to wait when this is something that you've all been concerned about? So why
Yeah.
wait?
It's just, I guess I'm wondering, are we wasting our time? Will the state come in and say, sorry, that's
But,
nice,
but,
but
but that's not how, you
Okay.
want to wait because you want to solve
it
problems.
was just a question.
No, and I'm saying
Oh,
that,
and it looks like
I wouldn't say why you should wait.
one of the friendly amendments was to put authority for lot coverage back in there. It'll be a little different. It'll be
Yeah.
75%. You
Right,
can impose a lot coverage requirement smaller than 75%, but that 75 applies to the area of the lot after you subtract setback areas. So it's a new complicated calculation.
Be a leader. Be a
that
leader.
we're not
Councilmember
used
Howard.
to.
Be a leader.
I love the way they make it simple, right?
Yeah.
it was that 75% I was thinking about.
I
I wasn't sure
want
it was
to
right
I want to
about.
go back a minute and find out why we want this in the first place. Why do we want a lot coverage or front yard coverage or whatever the standard is in our code? What is it that's driving us here? That's what I'm trying to get the answer
I think
to.
that, I kind of said
You just
that,
explained it.
which is that, when we
You want
all.
smaller houses, is that what it boils down to?
No, I don't want smaller houses. I don't want houses that are built to the maximum of the lot size and then have the additional add-ons of a driveway that goes all along the side and a back building and a patio and, whatever else that's in there, because I think that it's taking away from the character of the neighborhood. I think that it takes away from the flow of air. And I think that these builders are very, shrewd in how they put together their plans to maximize every inch of everything. And unfortunately, Montgomery County doesn't hold these standards that we have to them. And so I don't think that you can take a 7,000 square foot lot on Trent and have everything that these developers want on that lot. And I think we should prevent for that. And that's why I think that we should have this discussion, because, you can build a very large house size on these lots, but then it makes me, sad for the green space when all the other things just aren't included, because like no one counts them. So it's just a flaw in, I think, how Montgomery County sets up their building code requirements.
Right. So any other comments?
Well said. I appreciate that. I think it's the same reason we did the height limit. Same effective logic behind it, which I think has served us well. I mean, I like that we are figuring this out. I think I need to understand the impact of all of this, each of these options, like how it would actually, I did a little drawing.
So the issue tonight is whether you want him to draft something, so then you can see what the reaction
Of
is.
all the options?
Well,
Because we've been presented with 4 options, and I don't know which one to take.
Well, Shannon, what do you?
Well, I would like, if we look at his thing where it says building coverage, non-vegetative surface, like first off, like our driveway rule that it must be permeable is we should take that out, because every single person has not followed any of that. So we should, remove that, because that doesn't happen. And we should then, look at it from the standpoint of, how much do we want? How much do, maybe if we can look back at like the last, 5 houses built, like how much of the lot size do they take up with all their things? And then look to improve upon that. I don't exactly know, but I mean, I think we should take an all-encompassing view, because again, it's then left up to the homeowner and the buyer of this lot to decide what they want to do with it. We're not saying you can't have a driveway that runs down the side of your house to a garage. We're just saying you can't have that along with a, 6,000 square foot house and a gigantic patio and a pool. Like you can pick and choose what's important as a home buyer developer, instead of just maxing the edges of everything.
So you're saying, in addition to one of these options, we should revisit other sections of the code. So in addition to these options, we revisit other sections of the code, like the driveway.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, the driveway is a joke.
Like the driveway one. And because then we might be rationalizing further and putting the onus on the builder, rather than policing each aspect of the build.
Yeah, like I think that if you want to have, if a driveway's, I think that it is nice for people to decide what is important to them. It's just, it seems like now these developers especially are having everything, and it's taking away from the light and the air and the flow of the neighborhood. I mean, you can see like, different to the point of like different lot coverage, like different, not every lot is considered the same in this area. I mean, they're very different in sizes, but you can look at a street like Trent and Uppingham and, look and see, like, picture yourself in 20 years from now, if all of those houses have been torn down and they've all been rebuilt to what the houses that have recently been rebuilt look like. What do you think that neighborhood, that street looks like then? Because it's going to look really different. And so I think that we should just protect the character a little bit of the neighborhood and look into the future of like what people are buying and building and all of those things, and just try to protect as much green space and open air that we can, because that's what really like makes it feel like a nice, livable neighborhood. And I think the height has really done a good job of that because, you know, you don't have these looming houses over your neighbors like they do now. But I mean, you just think about like that street like Trent, and what if all of those houses were these, you know, big ones like this? And, you know, we're lucky it's not that yet, but you know, this is what the future would be.
I suggest maybe a different approach, which we did with bay windows already, actually, which is that people were putting bay windows into homes that extended to the ground, which were in fact looked like extensions of the home. We rewrote our code to prevent that, and suddenly bay windows have disappeared from new designs remarkably. We could attack long driveways that way too. I am fairly sure that people who put in driveways to their garage at the back never actually drive their cars into the garage at the back. You know, in other words, that they're really not used for cars.
That's not for us to say, Robin, that's not fair.
Well,
You know, you may think that, but if I had a
but
long driveway, I would
my
drive to the
concern
garage.
is that it puts a huge amount of impermeable surface into the road.
That's a different story. You can't, I think you
That-
can't legislate it that people don't use.
No,
their
no, I'm
driveway.
not legislating. What my concern is the huge amount of impermeable surface
Absolutely.
that a driveway like that creates, and I'd go after that rather than try to do a general shrink the available space for them to build strategy, because they really are creative in terms of.
Well, they're very creative at getting around all the
Right.
obstacles to get, you know, everything that it is that they can do on
Let's-
these lots.
Let's ask Ron a question. Ron, do you think
Yes.
it's possible to write code that goes to what Shannon is saying, that you gotta pick? You know, you have so much space and you gotta pick, and maybe you can't have the long driveway, or you can't have the porch or whatever. Can we do something like what she's saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so
I'd rather do
one
it.
thing to keep in mind is that all your regulations operate in tandem. So, you know, you've got your setbacks, a lot coverage requirement, non-vegetative surface requirement. They all collectively help sculpt and shape the permissible building envelope. And, you know, I think Councilmember Rovak's basically talking about a total non-vegetative surface area requirement, or a total impervious surface area requirement that would cover the whole lot. And then if you've got a requirement of 60% for the whole lot, then you have to make choices, right? Do you want a long driveway, or do you want a patio and a walkway? You know, so certainly I think that's possible.
No, I think that's
So,
what we
so
should do.
the issue is whether the three of you want him to draft that kind of legislation, because that's when we have these work sessions.
Well, you know, the point that Ron just made, I appreciate you asking him, which is that we get to this outcome through this sculpting. And I think Shannon's observation is that each of these things can be skirted. So collectively, they get around the sculpting.
Right.
And so can we find a more elegant outcome? So if the proposal is we do this, but we look to revisit other parts of the code. So this is not layering on top of existing stuff. We are actually streamlining things and making it more elegant. Then I'm more excited about that.
Right.
Because otherwise it would seem yet another piece that we're adding on. And the other thing that's clear to me, the scaling makes sense. There's a scaling proposal here, so it's, you know, proportional to lot coverage. That logic makes sense to me. But I haven't thought enough, understood enough to be able to say which of the four options presented. And so that there I'm, you know, so to the extent of saying let's move forward, I think we would have to give some guidance on which of those four options or combination of options would make sense. So even Steve, if you have a viewpoint based on your exposure to this issue, anyone else has a viewpoint, that would be good.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, I don't want to speak to Steve, but he did an amazing job for Section 5 and just taking a look at some prior permit applications and coming up with a table to show, you know, on this project, the coverage was X, you know, which could help the council arrive at what the right percentage is. Now, we don't currently have data for the things we don't regulate or that the county doesn't regulate. But, well, what do you think, Steve?
So I did for section 5 was a study of about 20 or 25 relatively recent building projects where I had access to plans. And I did my best to make measurements, which is typical. I don't have the special software, so somebody has to, at a curved walkway, I was making some gross approximations. But I think that overall I did a fair job, and it captured a bunch of information for Section 5's council, which they appreciated. With this specific question for your information, Section 5 wanted to prepare some language. They did an overhaul of their code. They adopted many code regulations similar to Somerset, and they considered adding a total lot coverage. That was the one item that they decided not to adopt at that hearing. That they just
Which item again?
total lot coverage restriction. They just weren't quite ready to take additional steps because they were adopting many new things with what they were doing. The number that Ron provided, just provide a little bit more information. My survey found that of like the 20 or 25 houses in section 5, all but 2 or maybe 3 of them had total lot coverage under 50%. One was up close to 60%. So the idea of this regulation was this is to capture what the town already had as a practice. And to me, it was a fairly modest regulation, 60%. Very, if anything, maybe one house would have been considered non-conforming. And the only other observation I make for the council is such a regulation, that's what variances are for. So the home developer came in and said, well, because of the unique characteristics of the topography, the lot size, shape, whatever, existing foundation that we're working with, we need to cover 62%. You can consider that.
Do you have any idea like what any of the recent houses in Somerset how they would fall as far as like how much percentage of the lot coverage?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm wrapping up my reviews for the houses in March. I can include that.
That would be great, yeah.
As a reference point.
Yeah, just I have no idea, if it's 60, 65, I mean, I have no clue.
Are section 5's lots bigger than ours as a rule? I know we have New Somerset, which would be, pretty typical at quarter-acre lots, and then we have Old Somerset, which is less conforming, but where do they fall?
I think that most of the lots, the size is probably comparable to Somerset, but most of the lots are narrower and deeper.
Okay.
And they have very narrow streets too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Very hard to park over there.
yeah.
Shannon, do you have a view on these options?
I mean, I like the idea of an overarching plan so that, because I feel like it is nice as, for a homeowner to feel like they have choices and that they're not being like totally told what they can and can't do. Because otherwise, if we did it that, I would maybe be more, like set to like kind of ban those long driveways down the sides of the houses to these garages that are brand new, things that people are building in. And, I know that, people want those and like them, or, it lets them have a bigger house, instead of a driveway where your car is attached to your home. you know, a garage, because that's the alternative that they've all come up to, because like they don't want to have a smaller house, so they build that so they can have their full, you know, living room, open front, 2-car garage there. But so I mean, I think my goal would be ease, understandability, and you know, just overall, like, not make it so convoluted is what I would want, but
So
I
like, like C or D in the options, like the building coverage. Building coverage of a lot shall not exceed 30% the area.
well, that's just for this front yard stuff, right?
Okay,
I'm talking
for the-
about, I'm not really talking about the front yard, I'm talking about the whole lot.
this is for the whole lot. Right?
It's one of the options.
One of the options is
Oh.
for the front yard, and then the other 3 options are for the whole lot.
Correct.
And the second is focused on the non-vegetative service. The other 2 are focused on building coverage and impervious area. So it's how you
Right.
come at it, basically,
Right.
which way you want to come at it, and
Yeah, and
I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but as I was hearing you, it sounded like C to me, but maybe I misunderstood.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, I guess
I'm just
that,
curious what.
I guess that, like, from my standpoint, they kind of go together, because, you know, if a building coverage should not exceed 30% of the area of a lot, then what's the other 70% gonna be? I mean, I would think it would be, you know, green space. But I don't know if that's clear. I don't know.
Hmm.
Non-vegetative, I don't know.
Doesn't,
That's non-green space, I guess.
I think the building coverage of a lot should not exceed 30%. Is that the county standard at the moment, right?
For infill.
It is, but the trouble is the county standard is, got ifs and buts and stuff with it.
So to just provide some more detail, what you were talking about, Shane, with lawn driveways going to those garages. Garages as a detached structure don't count the same for county rules on lot coverage as the house.
Right,
I don't know why not.
right,
We could count it.
We could define it.
I mean,
right. Like, that's why I want to be like simple, you know, like you,
Exactly, which gets what Ron said.
yeah.
Simple, clear, with
Would that be
schedule.
impervious surface? Would be simple?
Uh,
Or we're
yeah.
thinking, we're asking for something new. I'm still going off the options in front of us, but.
Right.
So yeah, building coverage is the standard way to do it. And it's easy to calculate because you just take the dimensions of the buildings with a total maximum non-vegetative surface or total impervious surface. You know, that's going to require a lot of detailed calculation. You got to look at the whole site plan and determine the square area of every walkway, you know, so on.
But that to me is the problem, is that it's not about the actual house itself. It's about the driveways and the impervious and the garage and the patios and
Package.
yeah, the whole package of it. And so, I mean, I'm not a lawyer yet.
Yeah.
And,
You gradually are.
but so I don't know how to write it up.
We're
but,
Ron,
like-
that's what Ron will write it
Right,
down.
that's what, I mean, that's what I can try to,
Right.
so I don't know what choice it is. I just, that's the spirit of my wanting to do that, is because of these variances that it's like, oh, you know, once you get this, then now they're doing this and this and this.
Well, Ron, if you feel that's guidance enough, we would.
I mean, this is just the first step, because
Yeah.
remember, he brings the draft back
Let me-
even before you introduce
Let
it.
me try to say what I think you're saying, Shannon. You're saying that we could start with building coverage be 30%, but include garages in that 30%, include porches in that 30%, include patios in that 30%. That's what you're saying.
Put the whole thing in.
Actually, what I heard you say is that you were saying let's start fresh with that outcome in mind. which is
I don't
that-
know about the
Yeah,
30%, because like, I would be curious as to know what our coverages now for some of these houses that have been built. So I can't say 30, 35. It means nothing to me.
But you are saying be inclusive of all bill elements.
Yeah,
Right.
Right, and maybe that's some language, some bill, something like that, that's more than the building
yeah.
itself, we could entertain.
Ron, do you understand all that?
Yeah, so it sounds like a maximum non-vegetative surface area requirement for the whole lot or impervious surface area. So Councilmember Rovak, would you want to include permeable paver, patio, or driveway, or exclude that?
I think that if they're permeable, I think that that's okay, right?
Okay, yeah, so that would
You
be
guys
an
So you mean
impervious.
This is just the start, so
Yeah,
draft it, put it
Yeah,
on
exactly,
there.
yeah.
permeable's okay.
Yeah, let's.
You're not making the final
cross that
decision, this
bridge
is the
when we see
beginning.
the draft.
But you've been wanting to do this for a long
For
time,
like
so let's
4
get
years.
started, right?
Yeah, let's get
So
started.
get started.
Well, I mean, I've basically already drafted it. You just have, you just pick the option there. But I
Right,
think the
right,
next
right,
step
right,
is coming up with the right percentage. Now, can we model out impervious surface area of some prior, like 5 or so permit applications, Steve? Is that something that you could do? I mean, obviously it's going to include some guesstimation, like you said, because
Yes, I can do that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, I have no idea. They could all be under 30 for all I know. Like, I really don't have any clue as to what percentage these
Yeah.
cover. But it would give a good
And
context.
To be clear, non-vegetative surface, we want to make sure that we are clearly defining to include all these build elements. So we're not leaving it open to then people figuring out a way to skirt that as well. If we have an outcome, let's be very defined on it. I mean, so that would be useful to see in language what that looks like, and whether it's reasonable. And one other request I have is to also then show us where we don't need the existing code as is. So what changes do we need to make to the code elsewhere, to Shannon's point, like on the driveway piece? If we're gonna go in this direction, I think that would be useful to see as well.
I don't know if you can do this off the top of your head or come back with it next time. Can you tell us like my house, how much have I used? Your house, you take a few houses that are the new Somerset and tell us about, the lot coverage. Like I have no idea how much I've used. No idea.
We did that at one point.
You did?
Yeah, we've done this at one point.
Okay.
This should be somewhere in the
Yeah,
archives.
it was done.
Which one?
Check it out too.
Next to the folder on the bridge.
Right, that's right. All right, I would just like to get a sense of, what we have going, what's your house? What's Kabir's house? What's your house? It's, just to give us a
80%
sense.
vegetative.
What?
So are we asking Ron to write draft based on non-vegetative surface percentage for us to review? Is that where we are?
impervious surface.
Yeah, I think a draft that incorporates the discussion we just had.
You want
I can
impervious?
keep it vague that way. And that two, it also sort of where we need to eliminate or remove requirements that exist now to correspond to these additions. I heard one from Shannon about the driveway. And then ideally some data to give us a sense of, to ground the percentage
Yes,
requirement
so
and give us a sense of
understand what an
sort
appropriate
of
percentage
grounded
is.
reality of what we're doing.
This is probably a silly question, but what's the difference if we call it the building coverage or the non-impervious coverage? Are we not talking the same thing, just
Well,
different words?
if you're talking about including patios in things that
What is the
choose
building?
among that, it has to be non-vegetative or impervious because patios are not a building structure.
Okay, just
And the difference, an example of the difference between non-vegetative and impervious type criteria, be 4712 for the having a pervious driveway, and then they did the extension to get the pervious parking slot. So that's,
because we probably would have said they could do it if they didn't do it that way.
so if Somerset is only regulating non-pervious surface area, that driveway expansion would be invisible to the code. So
Because it's,
it was pretty,
it's permeable?
it's permeable.
Yeah.
So if that's a concern, then
Then we could
you
do
want to go lower
non-vegetative,
for
which would,
non-vegetative surface
Right.
area.
Okay.
Then again, they might also have issues with the total lot coverage.
but. Those are
Well,
things,
yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, then this would also then further make people think about putting in more permeable,
Right.
you know, things than not. You know, because they want all the things, so like, you know, then it has to be, then the patio has to be permeable. You know, that might be a case for that.
It's using the permeable characteristic. So could support a stormwater management from the town.
Right, and that's really, you know, I mean, again, like this started from all of that and from stormwater management, because, you know, we've got a real problem with water in our town. And, you know, every time we build a new house, it, you know, maybe it doesn't, it totally you know, it doesn't make it that much worse now with our new stormwater management, but, you know, if you look in the future, in 30 years, 40 years from now, you know, and the houses and the size and, you know, the water, it's gonna be a problem.
all right, so impervious then is the standard that we want it to be built on. Okay. All right, I think we're there. I think Ron has guidance. And the next item is discussion on a potential code amendment to establish Charter Day in the town of Somerset.
Okay, so, as you know, the Councilor Khan recommended that we celebrate the 120th birthday of the town this year. So there's a committee working, we're very excited. And I just thought it would be nice that we actually put in the code that that the town recognizes that day, so that hopefully future governments and citizens will always find a way to celebrate it. It doesn't mean that we have to have, there's no financial, economic impact on the government. And actually, EJ drafted it, so Ron could sort of look at it, but, so I just suggest that we move forward with that.
All right,
It's not really controversial.
I've got one comment on it then, which is rewrite the last whereas it's not appropriate to this amendment.
Okay, well, let's have Ron look at it. And
Yeah,
well, you can
just
talk about it.
Ron can look at it.
Yeah.
Look at the last whereas, and it's a Charter Day, the last whereas doesn't fit, is what I'm going to say. All right, next one is discussion on the current regulations for notifying, confronting and abutting properties of permit application hearings. And EJ, could you just run through what that is?
Yes, so the reason this is on the agenda is because it's come up at permit hearings is currently anytime there is a permit hearing that comes before the council, the current regulations as in the code is that I have to send out to the confronting and abutting properties a 10 days notice via both email, if available, through first class US mail. And so the reason this is on the agenda is because at hearings, there have been questions on if that's enough notice. Also right now, it doesn't specify any sort of like exclusions. So those 10 days, like holidays are excluded. There's no, it's not like business days, it's just 10.
Yeah, remember Councilor Robeck has brought this up a lot.
Yes.
So that's why we put it on the agenda, so because you've noted all these gray areas of the notice, and so this is to make it more clear.
And so, yeah, so it's on the agenda to see if the council would like to
Move forward with that.
move forward. with
Yeah, I mean, I think that there
specifying.
should be much bigger notice window than what we have. You know, I think that what you're doing now is definitely better than your predecessor. But it would be nice to see, like, you know, I think, what's the rule again?
10 days.
10 days,
It's
and
been
that's,
counted.
and that's not on business days.
No.
Can we make it 10 business days then? Without,
Well,
Well,
that's, I mean, the reason why we're discussing it is because the way it is now, it creates problems and you had all those concerns. So do you like the way he's drafted it or do you want?
Well, there's like drafted currently, but
What is
to your question, I do believe that 10 business days would be perhaps a better alternative to what we have now, because it doesn't increase the burden of getting all the materials together for the next month's meeting as much as some other options, but still it does make sure that we're not like including Saturday and Sunday.
But a business day would be it should be specified what's a business days. So it should be a day that the town hall is open.
all right.
Right,
that's
not
business day and
because-
That's a
Sunday.
good idea.
Like,
Because
so if the meeting is the first Monday of every month, like in a perfect world, then the packet of information to the neighbors or whatever would be out, not the Friday before, like two full Fridays before that Monday.
Yeah, and the thing to consider, I would say about that is that if the rules were changed, it also might be worth looking at. Currently, the regulation is, we tell applicants that if they want to be on the next month's agenda, so for example, if they wanted to be on the March agenda, they have to have a completed application by the 10th. But that sort of code is there with the understanding of the 10 days notice. So it also might be reasonable to see if changing that date would.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you can do, like, for the people who are doing these full-blown new housing and stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
it should have 30 days, like that the staff works on
I
it.
mean, you could make you could differentiate for different types of applications, tear down or what do you think? What do you recommend, Mr. Town Attorney?
I was just reading, Mr. Mayor, the definition of how rules of interpretation for how we compute time.
Yeah.
So right now, the code says the time within which an act is to be done shall be computed by excluding the first day, including the last day. And if the last day is Sunday or a legal holiday, that day shall be excluded. So right now, when we say 10 days, we're only excluding Sundays and holidays. So yeah, we could revise that to be business days, Monday through Friday, or when the office is open, like you said.
Ron, how long do your other municipalities give for building plans?
So yeah, most of my other jurisdictions are different. The building permit applications are processed administratively. They don't go to public hearings.
Council, right?
But variance hearings, yeah, 10 days is pretty short. I mean, 15 days is
Because,
more standard.
A lot of times, like, these neighbors are kind of held to these like tight deadlines, and they might want to hire their own water consultants and their own lawyers
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
their own people, and we don't really give them that much
So
time.
these rules were really created when the policy was to make it easy for applicants to get things done. But I think we really want to make it, the burden really is placed on them so that the neighbors have an opportunity, because so many times we get applications here when the citizens don't feel they've had enough time to comment.
Mhm.
And especially around the holiday times and in the summer. And so I think that to make it, I mean, like the county council for applications, isn't it like 30 days notice?
Good question, Mr. Mayor. Let me look at the rules for the Board of Appeals for the
Yeah.
county and see what they do.
Yeah, why don't you, because I think based on what I've heard over the years, especially from Councilmember Rovak, is we need to bend over backwards to make sure that the neighbors have an opportunity to review and hire whoever they need to properly, and to just not make it so easy for people to just ram these things through. I mean, I think that's what our citizens really, that's what they want. I mean, why do we have this incredibly inclusive, elaborate process of review if we don't have all the parties, all the stakeholders, a real opportunity to review it?
Yeah,
There is a point, however, which I understand it from EJ's perspective, which is that if we give the neighbors 15 days, we can't have the application come in at the 10th of the month.
I think
we
the
can change all
application should
that
be
too.
30
Yes,
days.
We can change all
We need
that.
to change
Yeah,
that
we
too,
can
is
change
what
all
I'm
that.
trying to say. It isn't, at 10 business days, we could just slot that in. If we're going to do 15, then we have to change the process itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's,
Move that back.
it's just like I was gonna call it a charcuterie, but what was it called? Charrette.
Charcuterie.
Every time.
The eye of the beholder.
The
So that's
charrette,
gonna
but, I mean, we saw what happens when we don't give the neighbors like full context and, all of the things, so, I think that people in this town are very thoughtful homeowners, and, I think that they would like as much, runway, for them to not feel like it's just totally being blindsided to them. And, the same thing with the developers, like, for them to understand what our rules are up front, and so there's no confusion on their end as well.
Well, can we perhaps divide it up so that if it is a tear down, then we give the neighbors extended notice? If it's a renovation, then it's a standard 10 business days.
Oh, I would make it all the
And
same.
then the town attorney is gonna have to come with a tight definition of what's a tear down and what's a renovation.
Yeah, we're slowing everything down though, when, some of the ones we get through are very simple. And, building the bridge across the parts of their house, 2 parts of their house to get to the garage was very simple. No neighbor was going to object to that. No neighbor did object to that. Do we have to give 30 days notice or whatever it is to neighbors for everything?
What about 15 days?
Yeah, I think that could work. You could say 10 days for additions and 15 days for new construction.
And that's the word.
I
new
think
construction.
just because you think that it's an easy thing, something that you might think is so simple, the neighbor doesn't necessarily think that.
No, but we have had applications that have not been, subject to the kind of scrutiny that you would want from neighbors. So I appreciate some tiering. And if we can do 10 business days and even up to 30 business days for the build category, that would be great. 10 business days for
I think 30
additions.
is really hard on the process, no?
So 15 business days for the other category. Yeah, that would be an improvement for sure. But builds, I mean, a full tear down 30 business days might be a good call. So, be sort of accommodating for the additions and reasonable renovations and whatnot that don't disrupt the neighbor, 10 business days, but something massive, major, 30 business days.
Again, this is just the bit, we're just starting, so you have an idea, you put it in writing, and then you circulate it and get comments. Maybe some of the people here are gonna say, well, that's gonna be too much of a burden on the person that's gonna buy my house, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds good. Keep moving.
All right.
Yeah, and then, too, for EJ, like, if you wanna look at like,
We
the
can
flow
defer-
of how it
we can defer
happens
the
for
rest of
you,
it.
like, so you build yourself in. Like
can
if
defer the
we
rest
say
to
it's
the
15
7th.
days, business days or whatever, then how much time are you gonna need? And Steve Circo and, whomever, who, our administration to think about how much time that you guys need in order to do the things that you do to get it ready to go out at that time and then build that deadline back. I mean, I think that people who do construction are used to these,
For the big
delays
projects,
and,
100%,
right,
yeah.
and even for a small addition, if you're hiring an architect to make a screen porch, like, you're already months in, like, and so, I think that people, I don't think that it's gonna be like a hindrance on our town.
I've been reminded the time is 7:30, so we're trying to get out of here. Do we have clear guidance at the moment or not? I've heard 10 days and 15 days. You want 10 days and 30 days? Is that what you're saying in essence?
Well, I would be in favor of.
What is
the
EJ?
10:30.
I want to hear
Yeah,
from EJ. Okay,
Well, like you suggested, I think it would be good for me to sit down with like the staff and kind of I think 15 or 30 days could
So,
serve as a start, but they
Yeah.
kind of sit down.
so basically, you're just giving the authority for EJ to work with Ron to draft something that's gonna be brought back next month anyway.
great.
Perfect.
I think it's perfect.
All right, okay, so it is 7:30. We have still got the town manager's report, which is the second time we have cut EJ out. You need to put yourself further up on the agenda,
You need to
EJ.
be first.
No, it's, okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Oh, I was looking forward.
Good night, everybody.
Keep going.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, thank
Ron.
you.
All right.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor did an excellent job testifying today. If anyone wants to see the recording.
So did Connor last week.
Hey, what about the sidekick that was sitting there the whole time?
That's yourself.
It was me.
So my sense is